Good evening, friends. My name is Brahmachari Aditya, and this is the second of the classes, in the series of understanding life after death. So let's begin with a couple chants which touch on this theme, and then I will do a very brief recap of what we went through last week and what we will be discussing today. Let's sing this chant. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine, be thou mine. प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा हो जाओ मेरे. प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine, be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine, be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine, be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine, be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा, मैं तुम्हारा, मैं तुम्हारा. प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा, तुम्हारा. प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा, मैं तुम्हारा, मैं तुम्हारा. प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा, तुम्हारा. हो जाओ मेरे, हो जाओ मेरे, हो जाओ मेरे, हो जाओ मेरे. प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा, तुम्हारा. हो जाओ मेरे, हो जाओ मेरे, हो जाओ मेरे, हो जाओ मेरे. प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा, तुम्हारा. प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा, मैं तुम्हारा, मैं तुम्हारा. प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा, तुम्हारा. प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा, तुम्हारा. हो जाओ मेरे, हो जाओ मेरे, हो जाओ मेरे, हो जाओ मेरे. प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा, तुम्हारा. हो जाओ मेरे, हो जाओ मेरे, हो जाओ मेरे, हो जाओ मेरे. प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा, तुम्हारा. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine, be I am thine. Let's offer a prayer together. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, beloved God, great masters, saints and sages, beloved Guru Paramhans Yogananda Ji, we humbly bow before you all. Dear God, great masters, We invite your presence, your grace and wisdom upon our lives and upon the souls of our dear friends and relatives, our brothers and sisters in the world who we have lost. They are now with you. Through your teachings and wisdom, teach us how to live. Reveal to us the mysteries of death, that we may perceive reality through your eyes, that our hearts may find comfort and consolation and see your guiding hand through these moments of transition and challenge. We are your children. We call to thee. Come to us. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. This next chant I'd like to sing, friends, is from Adi Shankaracharya. The words are very simple. No birth, no death, no caste have I. Father, mother have I none. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. The second verse is, mind nor intellect nor ego feeling, sky nor earth nor metals am I. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. That on one level, all these terms we used, we are that reality. We see them, we are a part of them, but it is not the entire picture. Once our consciousness rises in the state of yoga, which comes through the grace of God, Guru, our own efforts, we will perceive that fortunately we played that role, but we were none of those things. Paramahans Yogananda ji, my guru and whose picture is over here, and I'll read from his autobiography briefly today. He used to say, there is nothing else in existence except God. God, he used to say, is the only reality. You and I are part of God, but we may not be aware of it entirely right now. So to the degree we are aware, that stage becomes our experiential reality. So if we improve our knowing, we too will be singing as Adi Shankaracharya said, and Yogananda ji gave this English translation and the words to this English translation. So please sing this with me as an affirmation and also as a living reality for countless souls that have found God. Father, mother, have I none. Father, mother, by none. I am He, I am He, Blessed Spirit, I am He, I am He, I am He, Blessed Spirit, I am He, I am He, I am He, Blessed Spirit, I am He. Mind nor intellect nor ego feeling, mind nor intellect nor ego feeling, sky nor earth nor metals am I, sky nor earth nor metals am I. I am He, I am He, Blessed Spirit, I am He, I am He, I am He, Blessed Spirit, I am He. शिवोहम शिवोहम, मैं हूँ आत्मा शिवोहम, शिवोहम शिवोहम, मैं हूँ आत्मा शिवोहम. I am He, I am He, Blessed Spirit, I am He, I am He, I am He, Blessed Spirit, I am He. Let us meditate just for a minute or so, sitting up straight. Om. 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 Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Welcome once again, everyone. So, last week, friends, we went through some discussion based on the teachings of Paramhans Yogananda ji of what is death, little bit of what happens at death, what is the how is existence placed if we do not understand, as Yogananda ji said, where we are coming from, where we are going, let's say in life itself, then he said the same confusion carries, where did I come from? Where will I go after death? And he said, actually, if we do not work on our consciousness while we are alive, he said, very little changes after we die, and we may not be aware of where we are going and where we may find ourselves once we have passed away. And then little bit we discussed about how do we overcome, and I shared a few stories of souls coming and seeing their loved ones after they had left their body in a dream or in a vision, and today again, or through sometimes a third person, through the instrumentality of another person. And today I will go in a little bit more detail with Yogananda ji's own words of how to, you might say, contact or be in touch, be comforted, you might say, by the presence, the vision, or the dream from one of our dear ones, and how to attract such a presence, how to get in touch with a soul which may have, you might say, reincarnated into another body. But before that, let's touch on a theme we didn't get enough time to go in last time, that where are our, what happens at the time of the death, and then we can go into where our loved ones are after they have left their body. So, as I did last time too, I want to read from this beautiful book, which is a compilation of Yogananda ji's writings on karma, death, and reincarnation. And this is a bit long, but we'll go through a very important subject of what happens at death, because Yogananda ji is here talking about why do we fear death, and again, what are the bodily changes that happen at that time. He writes, when the ordinary person approaches death, usually his whole body becomes paralyzed, just as a part of your body sometimes goes to sleep. When your foot goes to sleep, you see it and you know that it is yours, but you cannot move or use it. So, at the approach of death, most people feel an entire paralysis or a going to sleep state of the entire body, limbs, muscles, and even internal organs, including heart, lungs, and diaphragm. In the beginning, the dying man is conscious of the slow falling asleep of the muscles and limbs. When the heart begins to grow numb, there is a sense of suffocation because without heart action, the lungs cannot operate. This sense of suffocation is a little painful for about 1 to 3 seconds and causes a great fear of death. Because souls reincarnate many times and necessarily have to experience death in passing from an old body into the body of a little child, they retain the memory of this feeling of suffocation and pain at death. This memory of pain causes fear of death. I think the two important things over here was that Master says the paralysis starts setting in, but especially and only when it approaches the heart. For 1 to 3 seconds, he says, we feel that suffocation and the mental pain. And then he writes that it is the memory of this pain which we've had many times in past lives. It's like a soul memory, you might say, that is what causes fear of death, because of course it is unpleasant. But what I gathered from that was it is 1 to 3 seconds only. And then he writes in further detail how to overcome that, how to actually ultimately turn it around through practice and deep relaxation in God. So we are able to easily move back and forth. And then there would be no difficulty, you might say, at death. I want to now go into, as Yoganandaji described, the physical and psychological states at death. The ordinary man, he writes, at the time of death experiences the following sensations. One, gradual numbness of the limbs, muscles, heart, lungs, and diaphragm. Numbness. Second, during the spreading of numbness in the limbs and muscle, a sense of sadness, helplessness, and a desire to live comes into the mind. Next, when the numbness reaches the heart muscles, a sense of pain and suffocation is experienced, which causes an extreme fear of death. An attachment toward possessions and loved ones strongly comes upon the soul and causes extreme mental grief. You see, Yoganandaji used to explain that the heart is the center of our feelings, our emotions, even devotion and attachments. And it is only natural, one can see that when the heart stops beating, that suffocation comes, and Master writes, this a strong sense of grief comes because of this sudden springing of attachment and the desire to go back to express our love in a certain way. We've been used to expressing it outwardly, and that comes. Next, he writes, with the pain of suffocation, there is a great mental struggle to bring the breath back again. At this time, a condensed review of all the good and bad actions of his lifetime comes up in the mind of the dying man. From this mental introspection comes the guiding tendency in determining the kind of birth the dying man will have in the next life. Now, a little bit, this is not related to our subject of understanding death, but on one level, friends, both Swami Kriyananda ji and his guru Paramhans Yogananda, when they spoke of this particular moment in our life, you might say, when we are just about to leave the body, they said it is very important to hold on to the thought of God, to the thought of the good actions we have done, to the perhaps strong hope of quickly working out whatever little karma we may have. Or, as Master used to say, to finally cut those cords of physical desires or things of the physical world which may cause us to come back. He says refined desires which can be fulfilled in the higher planes, the astral planes, he says can cause our birth right there, and we continue. We stay on the astral world for a while and we move above from there. I will read from the autobiography of a yogi where Sri Yukteswarji is explaining where he is right now. He told Master. And then Swami did explain to us towards the end of his life, sometimes by taking example of his own reading and the way different people were interpreting that. But he said, I remember one time he was at a tea and somebody said he was speaking about his passing as he normally would do towards the end. And Swamiji said, so he was speaking of his passing, and somebody said, "Oh, Swamiji, we will miss you so much when you are not with us, but you are in the astral world." And Swami right away made that correction. He says, I do not intend to leave any traces behind in the astral or the causal worlds, which was to say, that of course he was aiming for moksha. Yogananda ji had told him that God will come to you at the end of your life. Death itself will be the final sacrifice you will have to make. So you think, as is our belief completely, that because those are Master's words, that Swami sacrificed and gave up ultimately everything and he merged with God. That is why we call his day of passing the Moksha Day. However, to explain the different stages, he did tell around the same time that imagine you have nothing, no desire left for this plane, the things of this plane. You enjoy them with the innocent joy of God. You're not attached one way or another. In his own lifetime, Swami went through times where he said he didn't even have money to buy good cheese. And then at other times, Divine Mother blessed her child very nicely, and he would say he would enjoy good food. That was particularly something he enjoyed from the beginning. He said, I would enjoy it with the joy of God. That Swami said, once most of your physical desires, you have no desire left. There's a dispassion that grows, as Swami himself in his last letter, shortly before his passing, he said, nothing attracts me anymore. He would say that then you stay in the astral world and you go from there, because higher, you might say finer desires of music, beauty, and uplifted lights and colors and such feelings, finer feelings, those are satisfied over there. Paramhans Yogananda ji in this book also talks about the elements of the astral body, which he says are not from the physical plane. So things like ego, chitta, feelings, He says these are aspects which are astral. So in the higher plane, when we want to enjoy them, then we don't have to reincarnate on the physical plane. And this should come as a great good news to us, that we aim at least for that. I remember one time Swami even interpreted somebody's asking him about their astrological reading, and the person said, "Oh, so this does this mean I will find God or have liberation?" And Swami wasn't sure, but he said, "It looks that you will at least not have any physical desires left by the end of this lifetime." So again, there's a truth and a level of reality over there. So then, and Swami used to also say, this is another thing, that at this moment, the thoughts we hold, and we can see how challenging it may become. Of course, the grace of God and gurus can do anything. And like I shared in 2, 3 stories last week, there is much that is happening without your and my knowing. A seeming fracture, pain, a lack of awareness, even that seems at the moment of death, may not be that way because behind the scenes, Guru might be working. Another very good example that comes to our mind is of Sister Gyanamata, Yogananda ji's most advanced lady disciple. I think very shortly before her passing, Paramhans Yogananda ji went to her. And as you may know, he was often not there at the moment of the passing of many of his near and dear ones, disciples, relatives, family members, and friends. He said it would be too much for him and he would perhaps fight with God, and it would be a very awkward situation. So he would take himself away somewhere, or Divine Mother would arrange it in such a way. But Master, knowing exactly when Sister Gyana Mata would be leaving, he went before that moment were to happen and he asked her, he said, "Sister, if there's anything you want, ask me, and I shall fulfill your desire right now." And she very lovingly, longingly said to him, "Master, please give me Nirbikalp Samadhi." And with the sweetest smile, he looked back to her and he said, "Why ask for something which you already have?" And I have often marveled at that story, that how little in his playfulness, I feel, did he even let his most advanced disciple know or not know what her own state of exalted consciousness was. So once we have a guru, there is much going on that you and I may not understand, and faith and surrender, self offering comes into the picture. But and that's why Master said in the beginning, the ordinary man at the time of their death, they go through these phases. But we have to always factor in, we don't know who is ordinary and who is not, so much might be happening beyond these points. Master goes on to say, at this time, the senses of touch, taste, smell, sight, and hearing vanish in succession. The sense of hearing is the last to leave the consciousness of the dying man. That is why it is extremely unwise even to whisper within the hearing of a dying person, "All is over, he is about to die." And Master then explains a story. And I have a little experience to share over here, of course, not of myself in many years ago. And I was going somewhere. I must have slipped. I really don't know to this day. Medically, we say that there's an amnesia, that you had a head injury and you simply don't remember what happened. However, even for that, Master explains in this book what happens. Sometimes we are out of the body temporarily, sometimes when it's time to die altogether, and such. But I remember the grace of Master clearly, that when I was somewhat retaining, coming back into my senses, the first thing I remember was maybe his thought or voice, something like which said, "Call home," because I must be confused, and said, "Call home." And I called the number which was on my phone, the first number, which was the person I had last contacted for a motorcycle on which I was doing the ashram errands. How did that voice guide me? Well, that's the grace, that's the watching over Master does. And it makes me think that when I was reading this, that the sense of hearing, there is something that it was retained on some level, and Master worked through that. Here's another important line for the same. Master said, since the last predominating thought of a dying person is weighted down with the habit tendency of a lifetime, it is not good to overburden this consciousness with the fear of death. The dying man should be told nothing, or if he is a brave man and wants to die, whisper into his ear, cross the portal of this woeful life into the vista of everlasting happiness. Next point. The ordinary person, after he experiences the sense of suffocation, finds himself suddenly relieved of the weight of his body, of the necessity of breathing, and of any physical pain. After that, the soul of the dead man enters into a state of oblivious sleep, a million times deeper and more enjoyable than the state of ordinary deep sleep. A sense of soaring through a very peaceful dark tunnel is experienced by the soul. And pretty much you might say that is the end, but these points also I thought are important for us to know because some of you sent a few questions last time, and this may answer one or two of those. Sometimes, when a man dies quickly, for instance by hanging or electrocution, or from a shot or sudden accident, he experiences practically no physical pain. The suffering is purely mental when the body realizes it cannot breathe or live again in that body. An imaginary sense of suffocation and pain at death turns into a painful mental nightmare, which for some time torments the mental feeling of the dead man. But after a little while, when the soul realizes that its body is gone, it becomes reconciled. If a good soul is murdered, he seldom suffers even mental agony after a sudden death. I mean, I thought that is so comforting because don't we often ask, why do people suffer? Why do bad things happen to good people? Or why do some very good people have short lives and where are they? Well, and this next line by Yogananda ji can be a starting point, you might say, to our understanding. He says, and this is a topic in itself, he says, the astral body becomes the base of operation after death. Now, Paramhans Yogananda ji explained, friends, that as I mentioned last time too, that yes, we are in a physical body, but he compared it. He said, imagine a jar of water which has a cork on it, a cap on it. And he says there is some water inside. Now you put this jar inside a bigger jar which has its own water. And now you put another bigger cork on it. And he said you take a still third bigger jar in which both these jars have been placed, and then you set all these jars into an ocean, which is, of course, almost infinite amount of water, you may say. Master says that is exactly how you and I live, that we are surrounded by an infinite consciousness of God, inside which our causal body, the biggest jar, is there. The causal universe is the biggest. It's the idea, universe of ideas, ideational universe condensed more by God, it becomes the causal universe and the causal body for you and me. Just like in this big physical universe, we have a tiny body. So we do have an astral body in the same way, which is bigger than the physical, but smaller than the causal. And inside that, you might say, smaller than that, I should say, is the physical body. And Master says removing just one cork will not do. Yes, we can stay at an exalted plane and continue from there. But he said, in order to find God, he said, ultimately, those corks, three corks of physical, astral, and causal must be removed. And he said, we find God. So when the physical body dies, when we have lost a near or dear one, They are now in the astral world, you might say. It's safe to say that by and large, most souls are there. Again, in the astral world, there are many places one could go to. I want to read from chapter 43 from this beautiful book, Autobiography of a Yogi. This book is so much more than an autobiography of Paramhansa Yogananda ji. It is an extraordinary account of his meeting many, many yoga masters, great souls, and saints. He himself was a yoga master. So, his deep experiences, not only of yoga, through yoga and meditation, but of devotion, of his love for God, and also experiences of life and death, questions of suffering. What really suffers? Why does suffering come to us? Many of these things are answered. And one of the most difficult periods of Yogananda ji's life was when his guru passed away, and Yogananda ji himself had to bury him under the sands of Puri, the city in Orissa. And then he came to Mumbai, Bombay at that time, and he was leaving. He was scheduled to leave to go back to the US over. Then he had this deep experience in Bombay where his guru first, a divine presence and light came into this room where Yogananda ji was meditating. Then he saw his guru's form. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming, till he ran and embraced, and much to his surprise, realized that his guru was there. So I want to now read, because his guru had returned from death, a place where normally our mind tries to convince us that nobody returns. His Guruji returned, and when Yogananda asked him, "But is it you, Master, the same Lion of God? Are you wearing a body like the one I buried beneath the cruel Puri sands?" "Yes, my child, I am the same. This is a flesh and blood body. Though I see it as ethereal, to your sight it is physical. From the cosmic atoms, I created an entirely new body, exactly like that cosmic dream physical body which you laid beneath the dream sands at Puri in your dream world." He uses the word dream thrice. He says the dream body, physical body, the dream sands, and your dream world. That seeing from a high vantage point now, he can see that this is a dream you and I are in. "I am in truth resurrected, not on earth, but on an astral planet. Its inhabitants are better able than earthly humanity to meet my lofty standards. There you and your exalted loved ones shall someday come to be with me." I mean, what is left to say after that? That Master said those who continue, who love God, who continue joyfully, till the end of life. Paramhansa Yogananda ji said, "I or one of the masters will be there to usher you into the other side." And on the other side are again the masters. Then I'll quickly read what happens. Where do we go to answer that question? "As prophets are sent on earth to help men work out their physical karma, so I have been directed by God to serve on an astral planet as a savior. It is called Hiranyaloka, or illumined astral planet. There I am aiding advanced beings to rid themselves of astral karma and thus attain liberation from astral rebirths." Just like Swami was telling this friend, that you could, even if you come back, you'll come to the astral level and then take a few rebirths, or you could just make a jump from there. And then I won't go in the detail, friends, but he explains what happens over there. And then I want to read this other paragraph. Yogananda ji's guru is saying over here, "You have read in the scriptures," Master went on, "that God encased the human soul successively in three bodies: the idea or causal body, the subtle astral body, seat of man's mental and emotional natures,
and the gross physical body. On earth, a man is equipped with his physical senses. An astral being works with his consciousness and feelings and a body made of life trons. That's a phrase Master coined. A causal bodied being remains in the blissful realm of ideas. My work is with those astral beings who are preparing to enter the causal world. And then Master says, Adorable Master, please tell me more about the astral cosmos. So I invite you to read further. But once our near and dear ones who used to stay with us, we were completely familiar with their schedule, their what they liked to eat, where they were, so we could plan and go and meet them. In the same way, friends, Paramhans Yogananda ji said that now that he said over there, it's consciousness and feeling. Those are the, like Sri Yukteswar ji was saying, Yogananda's guru. So we need to, you might say, relearn or learn yet another language which now they are speaking. It's the language of energy, it's the language of feelings and of consciousness. And Paramhans Yogananda has given three very clear, simple techniques where he said you could either feel on a conscious level the presence of your near and dear one, or you could see it in a dream in the subconscious reality, or he said you can raise your consciousness and awareness to a higher realm and experience them there, see them there through a vision. So I want to now read all of those three techniques in Master's words. Feeling contact in the conscious state. If day and night you miss a dear friend, then you will have a sort of longing, a soothing presence around your heart. By the way, heart means not the physical heart. You can feel it there, but the heart center, which is more in the center of the chest, the heart chakra. This will indicate to you that this friendly soul is trying to get in touch with you through your feeling, but he cannot materialize himself because of your constant mental restlessness. That, on one level, friends, there was a time where, again, Yogananda's Guru Sri Yukteswar was to arrive from Kolkata into Serampur, and Yogananda ji and one of his Guru Bhais, both disciples of Sri Yukteswar ji, they had to go and receive the master. And as they were about to leave, Yogananda ji had this feeling and he checked it inwardly again. And then he told his friend, he said, let's not go now. I don't think Sri Yukteswar ji will come by the train he told us. He will come by, we can go later. And his friend said, You and your intuitions. He said, I'm going. You stay if you have to over here. And he went and he waited a long time, and Sri Yukteswarji was not there. He came back. And just when he came back, Yogananda said, Come, let's go now. The next train must be coming. I think he will be on this train. And his friend wasn't really sure. And when they went, even before the train came, Yogananda ji said, He is here. He said the whole train is filled with his aura. And sure enough, and there were a few other signs Yogananda ji's guru sent him intuitively, which Yogananda told his friend will happen. And exactly in the same way, things happened, and Sri Yukteswar ji came. And Yogananda's friend later said, he said, I'm very upset with you. Why didn't you tell me about this change of plans in more detail? And Yogananda said, What can I do about it if you were restless about things? That one of the effective ways, you might say, to pray for those who have left the body is like, again, imagine if you went to see the same loved one in the physical body, would you keep talking to them? Would you not allow a dialogue to happen? Would you not be more perceptive? If perhaps they were quiet, you would be more quiet. I mean, we simply have to converse with each person based on how they are. In the same way, if they are now in an astral body, if they are operating through feeling and consciousness, yes, the physical grief is there. But remember, friends, it is of the heart, and the heart is where we can slowly turn it around, that yes, I am grieving for the loss of the physical form, but I want to now know where you are and commune with you. And Yoganandaji said, if you take that restlessness away, you can feel their presence. By the same token, Swami Kriranandaji used to say, for your prayers to be effective, he said, still your body first. Then he would say, still your mind. It should not be like we are praying and the mind again and again goes. And the mind is its own thing. Sometimes only when we focus on the body, the mind, we realize that we need to bring them under a state of relaxation and our control. So they are following our dictates and not telling us what to do all the time. And finally, Swami says, after you've stilled the body, you've stilled the mind, he said, still your heart. And he said, when you still your heart, you will know how to pray and for what to pray. There's a scene in this movie, Padre Pio, who was a great saint, where a lady was dying, and and Padre Pio was praying to save her. And later, I read in another letter that this happened. There was a much longer exchange that was going on for many days before that. She was saying, I think it was World War I had ended, and the Spanish flu was raging, and there was almost like a competition between those two who would die. And he said, no, let me die, and I will guide you all from above. And she said, no, 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 I have lost some relatives, I should die, and I will send you messages, you need to stay over here. And so it reached the final moment where he reaches there and he's saying, no, you mustn't die, this is not your time. And she says, no, it is my time, let me go, please let me go. And she passes away, and he's not able to accept that, and he starts praying, God, no, 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 return her. And then his superior just puts his hand on his heart and he says, don't tempt God, which is to say that acceptance is the beginning of working with a reality the way it is. So again, it is challenging, it was challenging for Padre Pio, and it is not easy, I think, for anybody. But slowly, when we can come to that point of calming our restlessness and calming the heart, Master says we will be able to perceive these realities and the presence of somebody. And he called it the contact, feeling the contact in the conscious state. Then he writes dream contact in subconscious state. If you concentrate upon the feeling that your friend is present for several minutes just before falling asleep, then that friend will appear to you in a dream. That's it. And maybe you want to try that. The third one, conscious contact in the superconscious state. If you carry the feeling of the presence of your departed friend and then concentrate with closed eyes at the spot between the eyebrows and visualize him, he will appear to you after some time. It may take months or even years. But if you are patient and keep on ever increasing the depth of the astral call of meditation, you will succeed. Now, certainly, friends, these experiences are beyond our, you might say, day to day reality. However, especially if we are practitioners of yoga and meditation, we should not dismiss them. Swami says, uh, have constructive doubts, not destructive, that, oh no, I don't believe, and who is going to try for years? Don't keep that attitude, even if it's trying to come up in the mind. Yogananda ji, Swami said, could so effortlessly commune with any exalted being that when he wrote his Bhagavad Gita, and Swami was there in that presence of Master at that time, he said he would sit up straight, lift his gaze, half closed eyes, and he would focus here. And inwardly in silence, he would pray to Ved Vyas, asked him how he would like the scripture to be expressed in these times. And then he would say to those who are around, now please write this down. And it's amazing that it's all over here. On one level, Kriyananda ji used to tell us that space is actually a delusion, just like death is a delusion. Swami said those words. He said, death is a delusion. It is real to you and me right now, but it is nothing but an alternating wave of duality. That which has come into manifestation, the body, must go. Physical, astral, causal. But the soul is simply going through a journey. And what you and I feel and miss, in the absence of somebody, is the soul's longing ultimately for God. It's like one soul likes another soul, and there are these three barriers of physical, astral, causal in between, and we try in innumerous ways to express, and in nice ways too. We like to express that reality, and then we miss that reality when it is not there. However, ultimately, when those barriers, when those bottles, remember, they are all broken, what remains? The same water which was in the ocean is in each of those bottles. And I'm reminded of this story of two drops which were falling from a cloud, and one of them was, almost you might say, diving towards the sea happily with the biggest smile, and the other was very nervous and not at all enjoying this free fall. And because they were friends, they looked at each other, and the happy drop asked the other one, "Are you okay?" He said, "Not at all." He said, "Why? What happened?" He said, "I'm not enjoying this journey at all. Don't you see, in a few moments, we will lose our existence and our friendship." And this other happy soul said, drop said, "Oh, my friend, don't you see, just in a few moments, we will become the sea. We will become one with the sea. Our friendship will be the strongest ever." And so it is, friends. That Master is explaining that, yes, if we are missing our near and dear ones in all these conscious, subconscious, and superconscious ways, in these techniques, we can commune with them. However, ultimately, the union we would enjoy with them would be our own union with God and with the souls who are with Him right now. The metaphysical technique of finding the lost and dear and loved ones, I will actually read it for you quickly, but it is a detailed technique, and I urge you to read it in the book if you want to practice it. When you lose someone very dear to you by death and you find it impossible to forget him, then proceed to find him in the following way, practicing for 2 hours each day for months, or if necessary, for years. Sit on a straight chair and practice the highest technique of concentration that you know for 1 hour. Then lift your hand and concentrate on the fingertips. Concentrate on the point between the eyebrows, see the spiritual eye, and continuously will to contact the astral body of the departed soul. Keep on turning your hand very gently in a circle toward all the different directions: north, south, east, and west, and so on. At every direction in the circle around which your hand moves, try to feel the presence of the astral body of the departed soul. When your fingers feel that you have touched him as you used to touch him while he lived, your heart will be thrilled. Keep on visualizing him in the spiritual eye and you will see him. Ask your fingers and heart to indicate in what place your friend is reborn according to the direction you felt him through your fingers. When you feel him through your fingers and heart and can see him and talk to him, he will tell you where he is in the astral world or the place where he is born. Then there will be great rejoicing. Well, uh, I think what we could take from that technique, which is so deep and profound, is that we need to increase our awareness. I liked when Master says, tell your fingers and heart to guide you, talk to them, which is a very valid practice. That are we aware enough of our body? Master used to say, and Swami used to say, most people are not even aware or omniscient even in their own bodies. What to speak of omniscience in general? That whatever we do, as Devi ji, Jyotish ji have been saying, our worldwide leaders, in these times where the cross currents of ego, of sorrow, of hope, of so many things and feelings are, strong, we need to be very intentional, which is another way of saying be aware. Why are you doing what you're doing? How are you planning to do it? How soon are you planning to do it? Because it's like a stormy sea. If we say, well, someday my boat will reach the shore, that's not the attitude of somebody who's in a stormy sea. We need to be very astute that when is the time to throw the anchor, when is the time to meditate, when is the time to make a quick opening of the sails and such. So I would say that in that technique, which as Master himself is saying can be time consuming, let us first develop that awareness, beginning with the heart, and as he proceeded to say, with the fingers and such. I want to now, friends, cover a little bit about the subject of, like I said, how can we pray? And just to repeat, first, let us, Swami said, calm the heart, calm the mind, calm the body. And once, we may feel, well, but I don't know, I can't feel in those highways, as Yogananda is saying, I perhaps can't see where they are. How do I know if they are being helped? You think of those Egyptian mummies where so many things were put over there, which I thought is a very sweet gesture, that, oh, they'll need this, they'll need this. But suddenly, we don't have somebody, who we want to take care of, and you wonder, how do you? But don't let that anxiety of how you can serve them be an impediment. Develop at least the openness and faith that let me try and see what may come. And this is something Yogananda ji said of his prayer techniques. He said, when you pray to God, pray for his will to be done above all. And he says, when something goes through you, after you have meditated, you have visualized, maybe seen a picture of your near and dear one, when you pray, keep your hands upraised for a while. Feel the blessings of Om and your prayer go out from the center of your palms. And Yogananda ji said, focus on what you're feeling is flowing through you. And he says, because see, if somebody was alive, you could still go back and ask them, which Paramahansa Yogananda ideally said we still shouldn't. We shouldn't go and ask somebody, did you feel something? But a sensitive person does feel, but he says, you feel, as a person who is praying, you feel what is flowing through you. And he says, then be sure that it is going and reaching the soul for whom you are praying. So that is one point I wanted to cover. And in our next class, friends, we will then share about how can we overcome, karma. What role does kriya play? How can we pray for the soul of somebody who has gone without, you might say, knowing much of these teachings? And what are the states of, you might say, exalted consciousness that the masters bring to us as gift? What does it mean to find God? What does it mean to be in the state of samadhi, sabikalp samadhi, nirbikalp samadhi, or finding God? How is enlightenment or finding God different from liberation or moksha? And we will go into Yogananda ji's teachings over there. And also a very important theme, how to prepare for death. Because if it is simply the other end of our existence, existence doesn't stop with death, it is just a different expression, then how can we prepare for it? Just like we prepare for life in such great detail. Kriyananda ji has written a beautiful essay in the book Religion in the New Age. It's running into over 20 pages, and it's called Death, the Final Exam. And he suggests how to prepare for it. And we will go through some of those points. Please send in your questions, which we will take cumulatively in the next session. And I look forward to your presence and your questions in the next weekend program. Thank you so much for joining us. And let's close with a half a minute of meditation and then praying for people. Please sit up straight. Let's take a double inhalation. Relax the body. Sitting up straight, opening the heart. Bring your attention, and if you can, your gaze to the point between the two eyebrows, the spiritual eye, as if you're looking up and through the forehead, very relaxingly. Let us see in our forehead the light of God, which animates all atoms, all aspects of creation, all people. Let us see the power and the intelligence of that light growing stronger in everyone, our questions, our sincere longing, attracting that light, its guidance and answers through the teachings. And let us see all of creation simply as a manifestation of that light. May that light help people now to regain their health, their emotional health, mental health, above all, spiritual health and wisdom. Let us see that light especially stronger in grieving hearts, in places of extensive service, such as hospitals, in people who are serving there. And let us see this light being received with open hearts by people of all beliefs, cultures, nationalities, religions, and faiths. And may this divine light of God guide us all, its children. Let's rub our hands together and now raising them above the head, chant Om 3 times, sending this prayer out into the world. Om. Om. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you, friends. We will meet next week now.